Tuesday morning. We are here from the weather desk, and it's a little different look that we have today for you because we're doing today's special weather desk from our live Impact News studio. This is where we typically do our streaming live Impact News. And I have Sarah Calloway with me right there. We've got her on the high wide. This is real quickly, Sarah, before we come off of you hear me talk about the great producing we have. Sarah has been producing this really for the last, how long has it been? About a year or so. It's been a while. She's been with us. Does a phenomenal job, and again, helps kind of pull in some of the weather stories while I'm doing some of the other streaming and then pulling together the weather graphics and doing this. You do a lot of the news writing for the weather desk, so I'm happy to have you with me. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm good. We've never done weather desk from in here before, so this is going to be a learning experience.
Yeah. It's a little different, but we still have a lot of great information to share with you. And I want to jump into the headlines as we always do. So we'll take a look at what we're going to cover today. First of all, Hawaii cleaning up after Lala. You know, the actual center of the storm stayed about 25 to 30 miles just to the south of the Big Island, but it was such a large storm coming through as a hurricane as it passed just south of the Big Island. A lot of wind, a lot of rain, and a lot of cleanup left for the islands. We'll take you out to Hawaii and show you exactly what's going on with that. In addition, we're watching two other areas in the tropics, and we'll let you know what's going on or what really isn't going on in the Atlantic Basin as well. So we will get you updated on the tropics. We also are going to turn our attention over to the Philippines, where the monsoons are producing tremendous amounts of rain and flooding. Now, Sarah, before I jump into this, you know what a monsoon is, right? What do you think a monsoon is?
It's a lot of rain.
A lot of rain. So you think that. It's actually, a monsoon is a change in the winds. It's a type of wind that develops. So when the wind pattern changes, it generates a lot of rain. So you get monsoon rains, but it's not actually the rain. Technically, it is the wind shift and the weather pattern shift. So that's one of those things that everybody always assumes, well, monsoon is a rain. The rain results from the monsoon. So we're going to talk about the Philippines. They are dealing with some serious flooding over there. In addition, Indiana still recovering from the flooding. They are so extensive. We showed some of that video, and we're going to give you a look at what's happening in Indiana. Out west, we touched on this a little while ago. It looked like Lake Powell was headed towards its lowest recorded level. And in fact, they've reached it now. So this is the lowest Lake Powell has been since they've kept records there. And again, Lake Powell, man-made, is a dammed, the Colorado River. And it's getting so low now that there's question as to whether or not it's going to be able to still generate power. So this is really a serious situation. We'll let you know about that. And then again, the prospects of some relief coming and why they're really even more concerned about this than the previous record years. So stay tuned. We also have more heat and humidity for Hampton Roads. So hot and sticky. We'll talk about how humid it is, areas under heat advisory, and extreme heat warning a little farther to the south. So plenty to get to today. We're going to start off by taking a look at what's going on with Lala. And you see some of the video there. This morning, Hawaii still cleaning up from the damage caused by Hurricane Lala. Mehalani Richardson has a look at the progress being made on the Big Island.
After 3 nights in a shelter, a family from Taiwan and others could go home. It'll be a 5-hour drive around the island to Naalehu for Ernie Salo.
A very big surprise. I wouldn't have thought they would have been able to clear it so fast. It was, so we were very happy.
Crews worked around the clock to clear Highway 11 fronting the Ka'u Hospital in Pahala of rocks, trees, and debris. Saturday night, floodwaters from Hurricane Lala burst through a gulch at Pa'au'au Stream, destroying the only artery in and out of the tiny town as residents swam for their lives. One elderly woman was carried by firefighters. In the morning, Hawaii County Civil Defense said the highway was reopened toward Hilo for emergency vehicles only, and officials hope to reopen the highway for local traffic by the afternoon. But word spread quickly, and some residents took chances to get out. All along the highway, a tangled mess of trees and power lines.
Tough, we're running out of resources already. Water, you know, to drink, and cleanup is taking longer than expected, but it's good to see the neighbors getting together and stuff and helping each other out.
The highway going south to Naalehu is still closed, and here this morning the construction equipment is waiting, ready to go. Now it's unclear how long it'll take to rebuild and reopen this highway, but crews tell me they'll definitely have to build some sort of bypass road so that people can drive to Naalehu, around South Point, and to Kona.
Feels like an apocalypse, to be honest.
Ka'u Hospital and Clinic is operating on emergency power. The hospital closed its clinic and expects more storm-related injuries and medication needs as shock from the storm wears off.
We are anticipating folks coming to the hospital for medication refills and whatever storm-related, illnesses, or in the aftermath of that, whether their adrenaline is running out, sleep deprived, you name it, we'll be there for them.
For communities like Pahala and Naalehu hit hard by the storm, the recovery from Lala is just beginning.
And it is going to continue to be a recovery for the islands here. We'll continue to monitor all of that. And again, as always, when we cover these wildfires or these natural disasters, we always keep an eye to those stories and continue to follow them. Now, we're going to take a look at where Lala is now. It has cleared the islands. As we go forward, you can see it is now, again, a hurricane. It had weakened to a tropical storm. Now it's back up to a hurricane with the 5 a.m. advisory this morning. When I came in, it was a tropical storm. Back to a hurricane, 80-mile-per-hour winds. But the good news is that it is far off now to the west of Hawaii and no longer impacting the islands. It's going to continue to move away, may become a Cat 2 hurricane. That's what the Hurricane Center believes is going to happen. As we get into Thursday, we're going to see, again, those winds maybe reaching 100 miles per hour. Eventually, it gets pulled to the north, and that's because a front is coming in, and with the approaching front, it will draw to the north and maybe to the northwest, weakening it eventually. For now, that is the latest on Lala. Now, I mentioned two other areas we are watching. There's that next one that is off to the southeast of Hawaii. That one's expected to track a little farther to the south. So let's hope that stays well to the south of Hawaii. There's a 60% chance, a moderate chance that that becomes a system. And then over to the far side of your screen, you can see off the coast of Mexico, another area, 0% chance of becoming organized, really reaching cyclone strength over the next couple of days. But that tropical wave within the next 7 days has an 80% chance, so a high likelihood of becoming another tropical system. So we will continue to monitor both of those in the Pacific. Hopefully neither one of those having any significant impacts to land. And right now they don't really look like they do. Here in the Atlantic Basin, of course, we're keeping a close eye to things. Our coastal waters in the mid-70s right now. We do have clear conditions, though, along the southeast coast. For the Gulf and for the Caribbean, things are pretty quiet as well. Tropical cyclone activity not expected in the next 7 days. So that's what's happening in the tropics. Taking you over to the Philippines and Manila. We want to talk to you about the monsoon. And again, that wind shift, Sarah, we were talking about, creating heavy rains. The Philippines now dealing with flooding caused by these monsoonal-driven rains. This video taken from the upper floor of a building shows washed-out roads in Manila. Other video from Manila shows conditions on board a commuter train. You can see the water, or the floodwaters, breach the doors of that car. Obviously, a pretty scary situation there. All right, we're going to take a short break, 2 minutes. When we come back, we're going to have more on those storm recovery in Indiana. Stay tuned for more on that. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. All right, we showed you cleanup in Hawaii, but that's not the only place cleaning up. Take a look. Indiana dealing with the leftovers, the mess after days of rain and flooding. At least 7 people died in Indiana, and thousands have been without power for days. This is a look at the aftermath in Indianapolis. The video shows just how high the floodwaters got in one home. Governor Mike Braun says state and federal help is on the way.
There's a state funding that's going to get you through the basics, like a place to stay, food, the essentials. The rest of what you're talking about takes a little time to flesh out, and if it doesn't meet the FEMA threshold, we're again in a good place, and that's when your legislative leaders, myself, our agencies will take care of that. Timing and amounts, we'll get with you.
Fortunately now, Indiana is looking at improving conditions now across the area. We don't have any rain across the area, and at this point, no severe weather threat right there for that part of the country. Where we are still seeing strong storms, though, back out to the west, and you can see some very heavy downpours right now in southeast Nebraska and north central Kansas, back into the northwest part of Missouri and portions of Iowa. I'm going to expand the view and show you again what the outlook is for the remainder of the day. And you can see again to the north and west of Indiana. You get up into the northwest corner there around Gary, Indiana, some of those areas back over towards Chicago. You do have a marginal risk, but most of Indiana in better shape today. Now, severe weather is more likely for western parts of Missouri and eastern Kansas. As we zoom in, there's the area most likely to see potential rotation with the cells. And it's not a great risk for tornadoes, but there is that elevated threat around the Kansas City area, back down through Ottawa and Topeka, Kansas, Emporia, out through Salina, and you look up towards Concordia and areas off to the north and west into southern Nebraska. So Kearney, back down through McCook, some of the other areas there out into southern Nebraska need to be just mindful that there could be some isolated tornadoes. Strong wind potential for the southeast part of Missouri. This is for your Wednesday as we look ahead, and then as we take a look at the hail threat there for Tuesday, it's still those same areas out to the west. Now, this is the Wednesday outlook I was really trying to get to when I mentioned the stronger winds in the southeast part of Missouri and down around the Boot Heel. There's also a tornadic threat, places like Cape Girardeau, Poplar Bluff, Carbondale, all the way down into the Boot Heel, Sikeston, Missouri, back out through Branson and Springfield, also Paducah, Kentucky. These areas mindful that they have that elevated risk of tornadoes. Again, strong wind potential for Wednesday and even a slightly elevated risk of large hail back in this same area on Wednesday. By Thursday, just marginal risks, but we do have them for the upper Midwest from Minnesota back across Iowa and into the Great Plains, again, Nebraska. But look at Hampton Roads. We too are under a marginal risk for Thursday. So while we have chances for storms later on Thursday, and I'll have more on that coming up in our local forecast, just know that some of those could be strong or possibly severe. All right, we're dealing with dry conditions across the country. After this break, a look at Lake Mead and its record low water level for the reservoir. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller with news for you concerning a couple large reservoirs and some big concerns out west. The second largest reservoir in the United States now at its lowest level ever recorded. Lake Powell is approaching levels so low that it may soon not have enough water to generate hydropower. Lake Powell is a man-made reservoir on the Colorado River that straddles the border between Arizona and Utah. The Colorado River provides water to about 40 million people and irrigates millions of acres of farmland across 7 states, including California, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, and Wyoming. Drought and temperature increases combined with heavy water use have shrunk the Colorado River by 20% since the year 2000. Lake Powell isn't the only reservoir impacted. As we told you last week, Lake Mead is the largest reservoir in the U.S., and it also hit that record low. It sits along the Colorado River as well on the border of Arizona and Nevada and helps provide water and energy to millions of people in the Southwest. CNN's Bill Weir has more on the impacts it could have for that region.
For the boaters who still love Lake Mead, reminders of the mega drought are all around. The bathtub ring, which shows the high watermark from the mid-'80s, is now almost 19 stories tall. Old sunken boats and worthless drinking water intakes get more exposed by the day. They couldn't imagine when they built this the kind of mega drought that would drop Lake Mead by 70%. That used to be the water intake tower. A satellite time-lapse shows how much of the nation's biggest reservoir has disappeared in the last 25 years. Mead, 27% full, while Lake Powell only 23% and dropping. Together, they keep 40 million people alive in 7 states, which have never agreed on how to share. While the dry, lower basin states of California, Nevada, and Arizona have volunteered to make cuts, Doug Burgum's Interior Department could force much steeper ones, especially to junior rights holder Arizona, where water is needed to make everything from copper to microchips to most of the nation's winter vegetables.
I would argue that all of those things are not just important to Arizona's economy, they're important to the national economy.
And Governor Katie Hobbs seems willing to fight for their share all the way to the Supreme Court.
We are very hopeful that it will align closely with the proposal that we put forward, the 3 lower basin state proposal. And nobody wants to end up in court, but this is a critical situation for Arizona, and I'm going to use every tool available to me. We have set aside millions of dollars to fight in court. If that becomes necessary, I hope it doesn't, but we're not at that point yet.
Utah is among the upper basin states refusing to offer new cuts, even as St. George has some of the cheapest water and highest per capita use in the West. And that's not even counting this private surf ranch with wave and wakeboarding pools for 56 homes and another similar development under construction.
You can surf in the driest county in Utah. How can you justify that? Whether they're pulling it out of a brackish aquifer or it's private water, how is that a good look for Washington County?
So unfortunately, like other communities, certain things were approved years and years and years ago, and we're kind of dealing with those. Since then, we have completely changed all our rules. But not just a surf lake, but a data center or a golf course. We've implemented this very strict policy now of large water users.
Zach Renstrom is trying to get his very conservative county to copy Las Vegas, where nearly every drop of Sin City's wastewater is captured, cleaned, and put back into Lake Mead, thanks to the foresight of leaders like Pat Mulroy.
I mean, the minute you accepted climate change as a reality, you had to accept that this day was coming. And if you're in the water business, you hope for the best and plan for the worst.
She thinks Burgum should be using more carrots and sticks to get the states to agree, and proposes desalination plants in California for irrigation, so farmers could give their shares to thirsty cities and wildlife habitats.
To put the states through the pain and anguish of having to go through another round of cut discussions, I would put that off. But where I would put my energy is I would put the states together and empower a body or a group in the lower basin and upper basin to look at ways to augment this river system. I mean, we have stayed away from desalination, and it blows my mind. You can't conserve your way out of this. You can't cut your way out of it.
quite a story there. And again, the water rights and water usage has been just a huge topic for decades. I want to show you very quickly, if we take this full, Sarah, just the map. And again, this is down around Lake Mead. We mentioned Lake Powell as well. Very dry out to the west. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about high humidity in Hampton Roads, and we'll look ahead through the upcoming weekend. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. All right, we need to talk about the heat alerts for Hampton Roads, and we don't have any across the immediate area, but just down to the south, you can see Perquimans and Chowan under that. Also the Outer Banks as you head over towards Kill Devil Hills. Down to the south, mainland Dare and Hyde County, and then Pamlico County down to the south of that. Those areas under extreme heat warning. Heat index values under the extreme heat warning could exceed 110 degrees. So that's what it's going to feel like with the humidity. For the areas under heat advisory, again, we're talking 105 to 108. These are the current feels like temperatures, and here we are, not even to 10 o'clock. It's 9:30, and it's feeling like 90 in Norfolk, 94 in Virginia Beach, 96 currently the feels like temperature down in Edenton. Guys, it is going to be a steamy one. You look at the high temperatures so far in August. Look at all those red days, above average days. And those are days also, for the most part, there's one there in the upper 80s, but generally it's been 90 or above. When you add up all of the days 90 or above in 2026, we've had 42 at Norfolk International. This ties now the second most on record. So we averaged 25 of these types of days this year, 42 days at 90 or above. The record for the most, 2010, was 49 days. So a lot of heat. It's been a hot one for sure. Right now at the Toms Creek Window Company Skyview, you see some of the clouds out there. Again, hot, humid temperatures in the lower to mid 80s. Highs today around 90, but it's going to feel closer to 100. Here's the 7-day forecast. The weekend is looking a little hit and miss as we go along. You're going to find chances for isolated storms, slight chance this afternoon, mainly south. I think mostly sunny tomorrow. And then late Thursday, remember, a marginal risk of severe, and then scattered stuff into the weekend. Hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Weather Desk. We'll see you next time.